Four dog. What are you doing down there? You full of burgers? You full of burgers, buddy? Are you a little burger dog? Are you a little burger dog? All right, here we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's Wednesday, hump day. Don't have too much to talk about right off the bat. Just that the continued letters for the Trump administration keep going out to other nations that are, quite frankly, for the most part, insulting to those nations, and makes it so that those nations probably don't want to do any business with us. The most egregious example was today's letter to Brazil, where Trump says that Bolsonaro is a personal friend of his, and he's offended that the nation of Brazil would pursue charges against Bolsonaro for trying to violently overthrow the government and assassinating people. And that if Brazil does not agree to stop the prosecution of their former criminal president, that he's going to slap a 50% tariff onto Brazilian goods. So Trump's arguments about wanting there to be trade surplus and not trade deficit with other countries now starts to fall apart, because Brazil, we have a trade surplus with Brazil. We sell Brazil $49 billion in goods, and we get $42 billion in goods back. So we actually sell more to Brazil than we buy from Brazil. But we do get around 30%, 35% of our oranges, 12% of our coffee, a huge amount of our beef, 15% of our sugar, all comes from Brazil. So expect prices of those items to start going through the roof, because we destroyed our sugar industry, so we don't have that. We also have sort of vaporized a whole bunch of our orange industry because we paved it over in California. So if you want mini malls, we got those in Orange County, but we don't have the oranges that are in great need. So if I were Brazil, I'd be like, and just forget you, right? Brazil is a monumentally rich country in natural resources. They've got the rest of the world to worry about. They can go, I don't want to do anymore, and then get closer ties to BRICS countries as they were. Speaking of BRICS, Trump said he's going to slap an arbitrary 20% tariff on anyone who does business dealings with BRICS, forgetting that the R in BRICS stands for Russia, which is one country he has not put tariffs on yet. So that means Trump is going to tariff Russia now, as it seems. Interesting. GME had a little pop today. It bottomed out at around 2250, a little bit above that, and then shot up to, I don't know, 2340, somewhere around there, before kind of settling down again at close to 22. Cool. I sold my call options for about 50% profit today, and I bought some puts, which were up about another 50%, and I didn't sell them. I think I'll probably do it tomorrow, because I'm feeling it'll bottom out, be a weird price going forward at close tomorrow, below max pain. I'll get calls, it'll shoot above max pain, I'll sell those, get puts, and write it back down again. That's probably where I'm going to end up at the end of the week. So yeah, that's what we're hoping. Anything else to add? I don't know, you guys will think of it in the chat. I'll get there eventually, right? So let's do the schlibbity schlap. Bing. Off. Okay. Ford ZZ9 was first. Chris Taylor is here. Ford ZZ9. But on a real note, I know you're not good at Easter eggs, but what are your thoughts behind the Stapler and RC's underwear thing? Just before I came on, I saw something about there's some sort of stapler transaction thing that has to do with shares and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm so tired of Easter eggs. They bore me now. I don't care about what little signals you're trying to send people. I don't care about, the hidden messages, the numerology, the hidden meaning, just pull the fucking trigger. That's all you need to do. You don't need to sit around thinking of more puzzles to do and clever little clues. Just pull that trigger, man. That's all you gotta do. Just do it. Just do it. Deb Bass, being a veteran Jimmy newsreader, 469's question still caught me off guard. Yeah, Ryan Cohen tweeted out about a stapler that they're selling on eBay. Apparently, it's the stapler that made national news because somebody received their Wii 2 or what's it called? What's the name? Not Wii 2. It's the Switch, Nintendo Switch 2. And it, like, a staple had gone through the box into their device, and so they're auctioning off the stapler for charity. And last I checked, it was at like $13,000. And he said if it goes 6 figures, he's going to include a pair of his underwear. So that's what it is. E-Minimus, definitely second. No, Irk, you are not second. You are fourth. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you're fourth. Steve Hagen, not first. Kid Katie in Houston. First things first, in your heart. Second thing, why let me post video of our dance off on Reddit. Tell your mod to get off their ass so we can all enjoy your dance videos. I did not realize that you weren't. Is your Reddit karma too low to post? Is that what happened? Because if your karma's too low, we have just automatic bot. There's like, because there's so many bots that try to get in there and post horrible stuff that we just like put a karma limit. I'll take a look and see if I can do something about that. Andrew Stewart down in Corpus Christi for work, and it seems people are genuinely pissed off about the lack of warnings that were sent out. They don't seem to be blaming Trump yet, but the anger is visceral. I can understand. Kerr County is the second wealthiest county in all of Texas. They have the second highest rate of millionaires per capita in that state of Texas. There's no excuse for them not to have spent the money on a warning system like that. Where I went to school in Hilo, dirt fucking poor. It is borderline third world. We're talking 25% unemployment rates. I could not imagine that town not having warning systems for tsunamis. It doesn't make any sense. So if the super duper 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 poor people of Hilo, Hawaii can afford warning sirens for tsunamis, the people of Kerr County should have been able to get sirens up there. It also, it's being pointed out that the folks who worked for National Weather Service and NOAA, who coordinated warnings like this to emergency personnel, to firefighters, to police officers, to civil defense, etc., were fired. They're gone. And then no one's been rehired to replace their positions. So, if your job as a meteorologist is to look at weather systems and predict what they're going to do, you pass that warning along to your superiors are then supposed to find the folks whose job it is to get the information to the public. And if those superiors do not have those people, those superiors are failing you. And if those superiors don't have those people because their superiors fired them all, then you lay that blame with the administration. That's what it comes down to. Those folks, a large number of them are dead today because of cheapskate policies at the state level and cheapskate policies at the federal level. All to give tax breaks to millionaires. So there you go. I can understand their anger is visceral, but this is definitely what happens when you ruin everything. Matthew Jackson, Tate Brothers with more stories about USAID financing accusers. It's also tiresome at this point. Yeah. Why would USAID fund accusers in the UK where USAID doesn't operate? Because they don't need our charity. Instead, what we have are text messages that were pulled off via warrants that are like, hey, I raped this child today. Wasn't it awesome? Yahoo! So yeah, the Tate Brothers are absolute sucky pieces of shit. So screw those guys. Good Katie in Houston. Happy birthday. Can you tell me the difference between a Manet and a Manet and a Monet as far as French Impressionist painters? No. Monet liked to do ponds, right? And Manet was more people? Am I thinking that right? Manet paintings. Yeah, so Manet liked to do people. So here's Manet. There's lots of people. And Monet, I believe, liked ponds. and landscapes. There you go, landscapes. Boom. That's. Oh, you guys can't see shit because I've got Google Earth up. There we go. All right. So here you go. There's Monet, lots of landscapes. There's some people in there, but the people are more like part of the landscape. Whereas Manet, people were the subject matter of the paintings. So there's your art history lesson of the day. So there you go. So when in doubt, are the people in the forefront or are they in the background? Or part of the background, I should say. You're welcome. Walter Estrada, 69th. Whoa, really? Lexington Productions, Houston. What happens if Mount Rainier erupts? Fisher's Mattress goes Mariners. Well, we can pull that up. There's been like 1,000 earthquakes under Mount Rainier the past couple of days. They don't think it's magma intrusion. They think it's hydraulic, which means like rock cracking and water moving up. But it's pretty widespread. Let's see if we can get the CVO Rainier earthquakes. So here we go. Here's the cluster happening. This is Mount Rainier here. This is sort of transectional views showing, inside the mountains. The magma chamber for Mount Rainier is pretty deep. There's probably smaller chambers a little higher up, but they don't matter for much. I'm not seeing it being a magma motion because we aren't going deep down. We're showing like big magma movements, and they're seeing inflation of the mountain, which normally the mountain starts to inflate, and they can actually measure like how many inches it's broadened itself from magma intrusion. And it all seems to be at a line that's consistent with groundwater level. So you can see it's got like a straight line across here. So they think it's likely that it's more hydrothermal. But that being said, let's look at Google Earth. Oh shoot, I got the paint on, don't I? I want to turn paint off. I want to turn you on. There we go. All right, let's leave Utah here. Go up to Mount Rainier. So Mount Rainier is a big mountain, 14,411 plus feet. You can see that there's lots of river systems that drain off of Mount Rainier. You see it, they all come spiraling off of here. Along with that is there's massive glaciers. You can see big, huge glaciers here. These are big boys. These are not small-time glaciers. These are very substantial glaciers. Larger ones to the north where they get less sunlight, so there's less sublimation. A little bit smaller ones to the south. And you can see the very roundness of the crater in the caldera here. Mount Rainier has a couple of issues with it. One is, oh crap, you aren't showing Mount Rainier at all there. Dang it. Turn on, you stupid idiot. Oh my gosh. Like, clicked on the properties and never actually opened Mount Rainier. So glaciers to the north, smaller glaciers to the south, some huge glaciers come off of the summit here. There's a little crater in the caldera. I climbed this when I was 14. I climbed Mount Rainier and summited it. I've not been up there since. I've been up to Camp Muir over here and gone skiing in the summertime. So you get up to about 11,000 feet and go skiing, have a fun time. Mount Rainier's got a couple issues. One, it's been a long time since it had a big eruption. It has a couple small eruptions in the 1800s, a couple little burps. That's about it. It has not had any significant big eruptions for several thousand years. This means the rock is aging. And the volcanic rock is mostly high silica, rhyolitic. But what happens is that hot water that's moving through carries with it a whole bunch of gases, sulfuric gases, acids, things like that. And it percolates through the rocks. It starts to break them down and make them really brittle. And when you have lots of warming, what's going on now, a lot of the snow starts to melt, the rock starts to be exposed, and it starts to just break down. You get some huge landslides. A few years ago, this rocky area here Liberty Cap, the rocky area to the north, is part of a climbing route going up to the top. And there were some big landslides and some people died. Mount Rainier is one of the deadliest mountains on the planet It's not as tall as, K2 or Everest or anything, but it gets a lot more climbers and it's a lot longer climbing season. So there's a lot more opportunities for people to fall into crevasses, to have landslides and get smushed and rocketed down several thousand feet down the mountain. So these loose breaking down rocks, they can shear away. You can get a situation where if you do get inflation, like with Mount St. Helens, it inflates and then an entire side of the mountain can give way, opening up the magma chamber, making for a violently explosive eruption. And you can lose huge chunks of the mountain. Now, if I were to, let me turn you off for a second and turn you on. Turn that guy on. Okay. I want to go to, which one are you? Right there. I want to go just images Mount Rainier. Okay. Do you see this little dude right here? This is called Little Tahoma. And you can see Little Tahoma. There's kind of a big crack of rock. This is the former slope of Mount Rainier. It had a cataclysmic eruption X number of thousands of years ago. Here's another image of it from the other side. Little Tahoma here, another big crack of rock. So at one point, Mount Rainier might have been as high as 18,000 feet tall. Very similar to like Mount Kilimanjaro. And if you take the slope on the right here and you bring it up, and the slope on the left here and bring it up, you'd have a peak somewhere about yay above the mountain. This is the result of a cataclysmic eruption sometime in the past before the current lava dome built itself up and made it the 14,000 plus foot mountain you see today. The mountain can do it again. And if it does it, it will mean some very harrowing things for quite a few people. So if I bring Google Earth back up again. So again, we got all these glaciers, we got lots of snow, and we got a whole bunch of river systems. Now, depending on the direction of the blast, if it's straight up, if it's a lateral blast like you had at Mount St. Helens, which is down here, Mount St. Helens blew to the north, almost straight north out, and just destroyed hundreds of square miles, just flattened it and cooked everything in its path that way. Mount Rainier can do a similar thing. We don't know what direction it would go if that happens, but you would get pyroclastic flows, which would travel 100 plus miles an hour with temperatures anywhere from 300 to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, just cooking everything. And then you get these things called lahars, which are sort of instant melt of the snow, instant melt of the glaciers, and then they roar downstream. And this is where all the damage gets done, because they'll rip out all the trees along the way. It's like a giant flash flood full of volcanic matter, and it will just tear through all of these river systems down into Puget Sound. And the Duwamish, which is part of the Green River, comes from Mount Rainier. So you would see lahars make it all the way to basically downtown Seattle. Tacoma, you can see these very fertile grounds in the river valleys. Is all from basically volcanic debris that gets deposited here over thousands and thousands of years. All of this, boom, flowing right into the port of Tacoma, wiping out the port of Tacoma. You have all these towns. Enumclaw is like a kind of a cowboy town. Sumner, all the way up through the Kent Valley. All these places are going to get wiped out basically with the lahars. So they actually have siren systems set up, pointing people to get to high ground, go up to the hills on the edges of these valleys. If you hear the sirens go off, that means Mount Rainier just did a puny pop, and to expect giant lahars coming through. Several of the deaths that happened from Mount St. Helens were from lahars. People were just floating on rivers downstream, not realizing that there's a giant wall of water coming. Some of those stories are pretty harrowing. I remember a story about a guy who got swept down and was basically just beaten to a pulp with logs, because the trees are just smashing him to pieces as he's like trying to stay on top of some of them, and somehow survived. So the lahars are a big thing. The flooding that results, the pyroclastic flows, and the other big thing to watch out for is ashfall. Now, usually the prevailing winds come from the south and west, so kind of blow things that way. When St. Helens went, it dumped a whole bunch of ash on Yakima because it went to the northeast. and then spread across the country after that. The jet stream is mostly prevailing to the east, so you get huge amounts of snowfall, ashfall, probably hitting places like Moses Lake, Wenatchee, Enumclaw, and then the jet stream would take over and dump more ash over big chunks of Idaho and Montana. The ashfall in Yakima probably be a foot or more, or sorry, this part of Eastern Washington probably be a foot or more. Probably looking at trace to an inch or two further from that. And that ash is basically microglass, so you don't want to breathe it in or eat it or anything like that. It'll just start cutting you up. So don't play in it if it does ever fall near you. Just put on a mask and hose it down and brush it away. So yeah. But the big towns, the big things we're going to have to worry about are going to be mostly the towns that are downstream from these potential lahars. So basically the suburbs of Seattle, Tacoma, and the downtown Seattle itself into where the port is. We'll have lots of debris and a lot of flooding. I don't think the dams, there's like a Mud Lake Dam and a couple of dams along the rivers here. I don't know how well they will hold up to the amount of debris flow that'll be coming out of these things. So you might look at dam losses as well. But yeah, there you go. There's a potentiality of what can happen if Mount Rainier goes puny pop. And it's not just Mount Rainier, but all the Cascade volcanoes, which you can see pretty well from space. You got, St. Helens, Mount Adams, Glacier Peak, Mount Baker. Down south, Oregon's just full of them. You got Hood and Jefferson and the Three Sisters and Crater Lake, and there's just a whole bunch all through here. They all have the same potentiality. My guess is that we won't see much action out of these volcanoes until this subduction zone here finally has its rupture. So there hasn't been any fresh material dumped into the magma chambers of the Cascade Range here for about 300 years. So we haven't had any significant eruptions for about 150 outside of Mount St. Helens. We had a little pop in Mount Lassen in California, but that was like 1909. But it was like a little, and that was about it. We got some steam that happened in Mount Baker in the 70s. We've had quite a bit of inflation of Three Sisters. So this is three big stratovolcanoes that kind of share a caldera pretty near Bend, and then Mount Bachelor as well. These guys inflated quite a bit about 10 years ago and then didn't do anything interesting after that. So yeah, we're just waiting for a big rip along this thing right here. And when that happens, a whole bunch of magma gets deposited basically because that plate slips and dives deep enough to melt and then create the plumes that will funnel and make these volcanoes go boom. So we're just waiting. Okay, Geological super chats. Thoughts on KLG? KLG. Let's look up. I don't know actually. KLG. You said something about KLG and KLG. Oh, it's Kellogg Company. So Kellogg's went from 17 up to 26. Well, somebody got a good after hours deal right there, and now sitting at 27 something. Kellogg's. What's going on with Kellogg's? Soars after Faro announces $3 billion acquisition. Okay. So, Kellogg's soared 45% after hours trading Wednesday following reports that the Italian confectionery giant Faro is nearing a deal to acquire the cereal maker for approximately $3 billion. Well, there you go. There must have been some sort of price attached to that deal. Currently, market capitalization approximately $1.5 billion, carries over $500 million debt. Port acquisition price represents a significant premium to the company's current market value. I would have thought Kellogg's was worth more than $3 billion. The guys that make the almond roca stuff, they're buying Kellogg's. Interesting. The last time Kellogg's was in the news was because of a giant strike of their workers who were like, "Pay us," and Kellogg's like, "Hell no!" And then people started boycotting Kellogg's products, and then Kellogg's is like, "Fine, we'll pay you." And that's usually how strikes work. So, like, companies, if you just pay the workers what they wanted, you could avoid the strikes. Like Hollywood. Hollywood lost, I don't know how many gajillions of dollars from the writer's strike and the Teamster strike. And then they're just paying them exactly what they wanted in the first place. So you've been making movies the entire time and paying them for that, but instead you didn't make anything. So, yeah. Well, okay. So the Italians are taking over Kellogg's the way the Italians took over Chrysler. Interesting. Everything's becoming Italian these days. Jethro Houston, do you think they messed up the Epstein cover-up this bad? Oh, how do you think they messed up the Epstein cover-up this bad? I think Trump's known all along that he was a central figure in all this. I also think that the people around him are so brainwashed they refuse to believe it, even though all the evidence was there. It's like, you wouldn't lie to me. I'm his close advisor. And when they opened up all this stuff and saw Trump, they went, oh no. And that's why they got to start covering up. There was a hubris involved that made Pam Bondi be like, yeah, I got the client list right in front on my desk, right? And a whole bunch of Matt Wallace and a whole bunch of other people being like, I've seen it, you know. And then all of a sudden they're like, no, there's no client list. There might not be a client list like this person works, I send them little kids, but the little black book of his is basically the client list, and there's something like 27 phone numbers for Donald Trump in there for all of his different, you know, hotels and offices and homes and whatnot. Ghislaine Maxwell told a reporter, was it USA Today, that there was videos of Trump with women and girls procured by Epstein. That they had those videos. The former head of the FBI stated they had something like over 1,000 pictures and hundreds of videos of children in such compromised situations. And that they're not going to release any of that because it would constitute child pornography. I get that. But there are people in those videos with those kids. So something has to be done to identify the folks who are in those videos with those kids. I think a big problem is that it's industrialists, Wall Street brokers, and bankers, and politicians, and probably other rich people, athletes, actors, Hollywood people, whatever. And sort of like the other times madams have been taken down, the list was procured by the authorities and then suppressed rather than revealed to the public. So every once in a while, like Ashley Madison, I think was the big one that got leaked to the public, and that took down some politicians, Spitzer in New York, among others. So I know the Anonymous Hacker Collective is really, really trying to get their hands on, the people that possibly been identified in this stuff. They spent a great deal of yesterday and today showing people how to access the unredacted information and things like Epstein's little black book. But how they botched the cover up this bad? Well, for one, they made claims of wanting to protect children, a central tenet of the base of Trump. These are the QAnon people, the libs of TikTok people, etc. And they're all like, we're going to protect kids, we're going to protect kids, we're going to protect kids. Meanwhile, the folks in that movement, members of the Republican Party, keep getting busted for doing things to kids or trying to do things to kids. It's one of those, I think he doth protest too much type situations. And so when they made this a central tenet to attracting people, and there's a lot of people out there who've been the victims of predators, and, being against this stuff can be very personal to them as well. So they take it personally. They want someone who's going to actively be out there to right these wrongs to protect other children. The problem is that they put their faith into a bunch of people who literally hurt children. What's the name of that poor girl, that was trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago? She worked for Trump as like a bathroom attendant or whatever, and Valerie Guilfoyle, is that her name? Um, and then was basically a little slave for Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein, and she's one of the people who broke the story wide open to the Miami Herald and got the information out there, and so that ended up the rearrest of Epstein and the charges being put against him. She, she was a victim of all this, and even she came out and endorsed Donald Trump, being like, "Oh, he would never." Lady, I know she committed suicide recently, but he was Epstein's best friend. They did everything together. Everything. He's named in lawsuits for basically tag teaming children with Epstein, right? One of the victims who claimed that she was trafficked by Epstein and then brought to Trump, as a child, explained how Trump told her he had to do everything she had to do everything he said because he'd already made several other little girls disappear, and she named off very specific little girls. And why any 13-year-old will know those names, you got me. So yeah, they definitely botched this sucker. And if I were the people trying to cover it up, I would have done a better job for sure. I would have produced a fake list, a list of 70 people who are all dead or foreign or something, and be like, "Yeah, I got the list here." But not to be like, "No, there was no list," after saying there was. And you've got hundreds or thousands of videos and pictures and everything else that's compromised. No. He never blackmailed anyone. He just secretly videotaped them and somehow became worth $900 million after being a high school dropout. He never blackmailed anybody. That's why he was allowed to teach math and physics at a very prestigious private school, having never graduated from high school, right? Yeah. There's a lot of folks in and around him who were tainted by this, and I think trying to bury it was in their best interest. I mean, Bill Barr, former head of the Justice Department, his dad was the person who hired Epstein as a high school dropout to teach math and physics to a bunch of rich people's kids, I should say. So yeah, there's family history amongst all these people. Acosta, who was the federal prosecutor in charge of basically trying to send Epstein to jail back in 2006, whenever that first arrest was. He then got a sweetheart deal, misdemeanor charges for Epstein, buried everything else, and then was rewarded with a cabinet level position inside the Trump White House during the first administration. So yeah, there's a lot of deals made in there. So how they botched it this bad? The fact they made it a central tenet of their campaign. "Oh, we're gonna get to the truth to you. We're gonna do it. So vote for us." Then they look at the truth doing, "Ah!" And that's why they botched it so bad. Walter Estrada. Oh no, that's not that one. Just mammy, a goddamn stapler, and we broke. Yep. What is Jimmy doing after hours here? I haven't looked. Yes, floating. And made it to 23.17 after hours. Just 2 cents below where it closed. Very steady. Not much happening. I think T35 is on the 17th next week, which again, that's a oh, come on. 17th is Thursday next week. So we could have a good close on that Friday if that's the case. They had to go out and do a bunch of buying on that Thursday into Friday to cover all their FTDs from when we went kind of big during May. So some calls Friday for next week probably wouldn't be such a bad thing. I'll probably dip my toes into that, see where it goes. Excuse me. Antoine Scott, happy birthday, using Is It True Our Universe Exists Inside of a Black Hole? We talked about this last week. theoretically possible, likely not. Theoretically possible because if it's a large enough black hole, we wouldn't be able to see beyond sort of the event horizon. And for us, that event horizon could be sort of the fuzz of the cosmic microwave background radiation. That's where everything redshifts so far away from us we just can't see it anymore. That could be the event horizon. My one problem with it, with us being inside of a black hole, is that we're expanding. And in a black hole, you wouldn't necessarily be expanding away from the center of gravity as we are. So what was the geographic center of the universe, everything is expanding outwards from that. So that wouldn't happen inside a black hole. You would orbit that center of mass, but you wouldn't have an inflation carried out from something like the Big Bang if that were to be happening. Katie in Houston, why don't you wear hats? Do they scare you, or is it simply too hard to contain such greatness under one hat? You must let your brain go free range. Personally, I go free range. I wear hats when I'm playing baseball. If I haven't showered, I love showering. I am a shower every day type person. So my hair looks magnificent. I don't need to wear a hat. But if it's a day where I'm just a grease ball and I've got to do stuff, I'll throw a hat on. I don't understand the people who want to shower as little as possible. It's always white people too, and they're like, "Oh, I just spritz myself with this stuff, and I don't need to shower anymore." Fucking gross. And two, showering is such a wonderful luxury. If I could be under a cascade of warm water 24 hours a day, I would do it. But the problem is, I run out of hot water. The tank goes dry, and all of a sudden it's cold, and it's not fun anymore. So, no, I would live. I mean, I'd fall asleep standing up in the shower because it feels so relaxing and so good. Just sit there, just water cascading over me, and I'm asleep standing up. It is magnificent. So, don't be one of those people who like, oh, I don't shower and I don't smell. The fuck you don't smell. You smell. You're not Korean. You are having all sorts of crazy oils and whatnot come out of your body, and you are a stinky person. So please just, we live in the future. It is a luxurious thing, and learn to enjoy having water cascade over your body or sit in a hot bath. It's a luxury that your European ancestors could not figure out for a very, very long time. And so they were just stinky, gross, stinky people. You could smell them before you could see them, kind of like Bigfoot. The fact that Queen Elizabeth made bathing in vogue because she did it once a year is disgusting. Matter of fact, she would put makeup on her face every day, all year, not clean it off. And once a year, when she would take that bath, they would scrape the inch of makeup off of her face. Her face was like a New York City landlord's apartment. Just painting over light switches and, window dealies and cabinet drawers and just everything. That was Queen Elizabeth's face. So be better than that. You got hot water, you got energy, you got power. Go take a bath, and you don't have to wear hats as often. So you can let the coif do its job. So no, it's not to contain my greatness, because I like the whoop my hair does. The best. Where are we at in the shirt list? Have we made a full cycle? I think I've got like maybe 15 shirts left before the cycle's over, and then we're starting over. So there's a lot of lighter shirts that I don't wear as often because I usually have like a graphic tee underneath that will show. But this one, the striped one, kind of hides it. This is a Olympic National Park shirt, I believe. No, it's a Squamish Falls shirt. So yeah. So I got, I don't know, like 15 or so left before the cycle is done. There's quite a few shirts that I've outgrown. Beefy boy. And a few shirts where the buttons have popped off and I've not bothered to do anything about fixing. So if I ever get to fixing them, those can be included in the cycle. But until then, here we are. Few more left. Boris Raspy. Hey, happy birthday, Houston. GME squeeze 2025, 2026. Also, if it's going to be a controlled squeeze, what are the prices you're looking for? I don't know if a squeeze can be controlled. I think a squeeze can be ended prematurely by actions from corporate ownership, such as we release a bunch of shares in the market, etc., to soak up the demand, or the government comes in and imposes a settlement on everybody and says you will sell your shares for this or not at all, and you will buy them for this or go under. That's probably the two ways you'd have control over it. Otherwise, a squeeze in itself is out of control. It means that the movers and shakers, the masters of the universe, have lost control, are facing liquidation pending margin calls, and they're being liquidated and forced to go into the market to buy these shares against their will. Basically, the prime brokers are going, I'm taking over and I'm closing this position. That there's not very much control going on in that case. So it's hard to gauge just how big a squeeze like that could get at this point, especially with all the dilution we've had and the years that have been plodding on and on. Like, just how much is the short interest in the end? I don't know if we can figure it out. We can try, but I'm still counting on something absolutely crazy at some point. When we had the baby squeeze, the sneeze in 2021, the intraday high was $480 for a share, but there were fractional shares that sold for the equivalent over $5,000 a share. So I don't think it's too outlandish to think that things can get to that point or greater. That's why I hope I've got my options contracts ready to go in such a situation so that I can worry about playing my options and making a whole boatload of cash off of that, and not necessarily rely on the number of shares I have for that retirement. If we do get like absolute phone book numbers, shares are gone. I don't care. I know that there's absolute weirdos who are like, I will hold GME forever, and they're going to hold it through like being a billionaire and back down again, and they'll somehow find the pride in that. I don't have such humility. I would gladly sell, turn off my social media, and fucking chill out for a while. Just disappear. I don't know. Go camping, sit on a beach, sit in a pile of kittens. I don't know, something. So the price gets high enough. Yeah, I'm done. I'm out. I want a luxurious good life, and I want to be able to travel, and I want to be able to help people I want to help. And if the price gets high enough for me to do that, I'm doing it. I'm making no qualms about it. So, what type of price I'm looking for? The amount of dilution we've had, let's say we're going for 1,000 or more share for start the ladder strategy. Back when we had about 1/8 the float, it was about 10,000 a share was when I was going to start my ladder strategy. So 1,000 now. Sell one share, put the next share up $1,500. When that sells, put the next share up for $2,250. When that sells, put the next share up for $3,700, and so on until you get to a point where there's been so much volume that perhaps it's time to check out. Then I might just dump everything in the market. I don't care. People are like, oh, it's on the way down. On the way down, the downward is going to be so abrupt and so quick. It's going to go from however much the high is back down to present day prices in 2 hours, and that'll be it. And because the buying pressure will be gone. There'll be once a brokerage or a prime broker has purchased all the shares they need to close a position, they stop buying. That's it. There's no more demand. They're out. They're done. So, how are you going to ride that back down if the demand disappears and goes to zero? You're not going to have day traders going in and buying shares at $40,000 a share. That'd be suicide. You're gonna have day traders going in and buying as high a put option as they possibly can while it's at $40,000 a share, and then ride that sucker back down. So my idea is sell when you feel like you've made a shitload of money, buy as many puts as humanly possible to ride that thing back down and make even more. Because, you know, let's say it doesn't even go as high as like $50,000, $1 million, whatever. Let's say it goes to like 2,000 during the squeeze. Let's do a little math here, right? Calculator, scene. I gotta turn off Google Earth. I gotta turn off Chrome. There's a calculator. Nope, that's not a calculator. What the hell are you? What the hell? Calculator. What else is on? Adobe? Turn you off. Nope. Oh, there's a calculator. Okay, calculator's back. All right, so we got the calculator. Let's say you have 1,000 shares. Boom, 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 boom. Got 1,000 shares. Price goes to 2,000, so you have $2 million, right? You're like, cool. Price of 2,000. I just made $2 million. I have enough to possibly retire. Maybe not with luxury and whatnot, but I got a good chunk of change. Now, the price at $2,000, I have no idea what the options chain will look like at that point. If they'll be making puts higher than that. But let's say the puts are at $125. The cheapest put you can get, or sorry, the highest put you can get is $125. That put is going to be $1 a put. Because you're looking at a $900 something difference between where the stock is trading, where that put is. That's a huge delta. The put price is going to be, even with like seemingly infinite implied volatility, those are going to be essentially cheap puts. So if you could theoretically get 2 million puts at $125. Okay, that's interesting. It might take you a long time because if your brokerage might only let you do 300 contracts at a time or 5,000 contracts at a time, depending on what permissions you have. So let's say you do it 5,000 contracts at a time. You now have to do, 400 purchases to be able to get that, but you might have enough time to buy as many of those as possibly can. So theoretically, you've purchased 2 million puts out of this at $125. And the stock, remember, the stock's at 2,000. Buy pressure disappears, stock price plummets, and it passes right through your $125 strike price back down to where it is today at $25. Okay. So that is $100 per contract, or $10,000 total per contract. You just made $20 billion off of $125 puts. If you could somehow get 2 million of them, theoretically. I don't know if there'd be any options right out there that would sell you those. But yeah, so you could turn 2 million theoretically into 20 million. If say the options writers have absolutely insane puts, the stock price at $2,000 and they've got $900 puts available, right? Those will still probably be close to $1 because they're $1,100 away. If you look at stocks right now, let's see here. What's the stock that's trading at a couple $1,000? Is Chipotle still trading? Did they finally do that split? Is that CHPT? Is that Chipotle? That's ChargePoint. Chipotle stock. Oh, it's $55. Shoot. That'd been a good one because it used to be at like 3,000. I'd be curious. What's stocks over $1,000 per share? That might help. Okay. 10 highest price stocks. Got Berkshire, Seaboard, Booking Holdings. Okay. Berkshire Hathaway. NVR, Seaboard. Seaboard's at 3,000. Booking Holdings is at 3,000. AutoZone's at 3,000 a share. Damn, son. AutoZone have call options. AZO options chain. Oh, they do have an option. Okay, let's look at this real quick. All right, throw that up there. Okay, AutoZone is right now it's $600 price. Oh, they must have done a split. Shit. Okay. Damn it, I was hoping for something that was like in the thousands. puts. Let's look further out. Let's look at let's do December. December's far away. We got puts. What's their cheapest puts? Oh no, they're in the thousands. Okay, so $1,000. The cheapest put is at 1,400, and it's well, at 1,500 it's $1.49. At 1,520 it's 98 cents. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. There's somebody bought 11 of them though. So yeah, you can pick these guys up at what? Strike price at 3,700. So these are thousands of dollars below where the current price is, and you can pick up for $1 a share. You got some in here that are higher up that are $5 at 1,000 beneath. So yeah, let's say that you got your $2 million and you go out and you buy 20,000 options at $900. So I hit the wrong button. I want to hit the turn the Chrome off. Okay, so you're at 2 million. And you did 20,000 options at $900 a share, and it flies through that and goes back down to $25 a share. So you're at $875 delta. That's $87,500 per. So times 87,500. You just did $1.75 billion off of that. So I think the key to the game is, yeah, you can sell at the peak. Let's say maybe the share price sells for $1 million a share and you are worth more money than God. Cool. But you have a way out to ride that sucker back down again. If you just go, oh, eventually the buy pressure is going to dry up and the stock price is going to return to reality. If you had done this in 2021, you know, let's say you bought call options some point in the year. You bought April or like June leaps or something when the stock price is at $20. You could have bought those 45s for probably $100 each, maybe even less, right? Maybe in December. And let's say you picked up, I don't know, 100 of them, right? Drop 10 grand on call options for April 2021. You got 100 of those suckers. Those call options were worth $46,000 each at one point. You had 100 of them. So let's say you sold. You made $4.6 million on January 28th, 2021, right before they turned off the buy button. Nailed it, right? And just before they turned off the buy button, you went, oh, I'm going to buy a bunch of puts. And so you bought a bunch of puts at, I don't know, $300 strike price, somewhere around there, something significantly down below. And you, how many did you buy? Probably buy those for probably close to $100 each. So divide that by 100. You now have $46,300 puts. And a few days later, the stock price was at $38 going into February. So that means you just made $26,200. Oops. Off each one of those call options. You're now worth $1.2 billion in 1 month, basically. And then you could do it again. You could go max out as many call options you can get. About at that time, it would have been around 60,000 call options. I think would be the peak, but before that put you over. So you could go and you could buy 60,000 more. Those stocks trading at $40. You could buy 60,000 at $100. Probably cost you pennies, right? So you get 60,000 of those suckers. And by the end of March, when the stock price, kissed 350, right? That would give you another 25,000 per. And you'd get another $1.5 billion out of it. So you could be worth $2-3 billion just in a couple of trades. So that's why volatility is awesome, so long as you nail it right. Because sometimes you go, oh, I'm going to hold forever. And then it eats shit and you're on the wrong side of it. So yeah, lots of things to play with. Off the grid here, super chats. What is NextBridge waiting for to sue or sell shares? I don't know. NextBridge waited way too long to sell off their assets, and other assets are worthless and or don't exist anymore. So now all they have left is essentially basically saying, hey, we lost our value because you assholes screwed up our stock. And my guess is they just NextBridge should go take a pile of cash, buy up a whole bunch of Donald Trump coin, show Donald Trump their wallet, and get him to go punish somebody for him. Because if we're living in a corrupt system, you got to go get to the corrupt man and have him out corrupt the corrupt people. And that's basically what they should do. I mean, they all voted for him anyway, so why not do that? But yeah, they lost the university lands. That's gone. That was the bulk of their holdings. They've got some smaller stuff. They have maybe at some point some sort of kill shot that can be done if they can figure out, their S1 and all their 10Ks that they have to redo. So my voice is failing me. Okay. Kid Katie and Boo, no double intro. There's still time. Oh, Kid Katie and my karma limit is too low. Okay, I'll go look for it and see if I can post it. J-Dog says Colombia has better coffee. Kona has better coffee. Ethiopia has better coffee. Is a factory. Jimmy, January, I can no longer buy January 125 calls. Is this just because no one is offering them? Or is it something more? It might be that no one's offering them. They may have just maxed out. Try to do a big order. Order 5,000 of them. See what happens. Matthew Jackson, thoughts on Kevin Malone? Seems all right to me. I don't know. I tried to have him on the show, and we talked about it once, and then things went squirrely, and we never got around to it. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll have on someday. Dead Bass. Didn't have the chance to mention it last show. Your wealth comments always remind me how Wayne and Brett Gretzky hold the NHL record for most combined points by two brothers. Yeah. It's like how they pointed out that there's been 4 baseball players in history whose last name started with R-U-T. There's like Babe Ruth with 714 home runs, and there's Rutledge who has 8, and 2 guys that have 1. So the average career homers for those guys is like 175 home runs or whatever. It's funny because it's true. Yeah. Yeah, between Greg Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr., there's 630 professional home runs. Forrest Raspy, happy birthday again. What do you think of Pulte and what he's doing with housing? Do you even know his end goal? I think he's going to vaporize mortgage-backed securities with his actions. I don't think he's quite realizing that's what he's doing. I think what he wants to do is he wants to be able to sell homes. In order to sell homes, people have to be able to get mortgages. To be able to get mortgages, the interest rates have to be at levels low enough so that the home prices don't devalue. Because right now, if you bought a home in 2021 or 2022 for $600,000, your mortgage payment is equivalent of buying a home for $300,000 now because interest rates are so high. He did do one thing, made one announcement yesterday where I was like, oh, this is from the leftists, where he is now going to force lenders to consider your rent payments as an ability to afford a mortgage, which is something I pointed out for years. So I do actually agree with Pulte on this one. If you're paying $2,500 a month to rent a house, right? And you go to a bank, you're like, hey, I'd like to get a mortgage. Like, sorry, you don't qualify. This mortgage is going to be $1,700 a month. And you're like, dude, I pay more than that in rent right now. The bank should be required to grant you that mortgage. If you're already paying more than that in rent, you should be allowed to purchase a home that's less than that monthly for your premiums. So I agree with him on that one. The problem is that he really wants people to go out and buy houses in a market where nobody can buy houses. Like, even then, people aren't going to go out. Like, you're paying $2,500 a month in rent, you get a really nice house, or you can spend $2,500 a month on a mortgage and have a really shitty house because interest rates are so high, right? Like, oh, I could have a $500,000 house 3 years ago, or I can have a $200,000 house today. Do I want to pay on that? Maybe not. So, Juice Mammy, trying to save inheritance from his grandfather. Yep, that's true. Aaron Sounting, Houston, do you know how to become a candidate for congressional run for Elon's new party? So I can use his money to cover the costs of a congressional run, and then after I win, can change parties. Not a clue, but my guess is when he sets up his America party, you just go to whoever the regional person is. Maybe even become the regional head of the America party. and you run that way. Then you'll have access to all the money and spread it all out however you want. My guess is that it won't be that organized, and most people involved will be a bunch of ignorant chuds, so it wouldn't be too hard to pull the wool over their eyes. You might have to do a little bit of tweaking of your social media so that they couldn't immediately be like, that guy's a carpetbagger. But, yeah, have fun with that. Yeah. Aaron Salentine says, I think Greens should run as Dems and Republicans and then change the Green Party after they win. I'd see Democrats change registration to Republicans after they win. The other way around also. Yeah, it's true. Okay. Oh, I got to go in here. I'll do one more and then I got to run away. I promised to go to dinner with my mother, so we're going to go do that. Aaron Salentine says, also ticker symbol MFI is doing 8-to-1 reverse split. They are not giving out payment in lieu or fractional shares for fractional shares. They are doing a roundup. The stock is at $4.80 right now. You can 8 times your money right there. Noted. All right. Little baby steps. The stupid stapler's up to $38,000. Well, he may be sending the underwear at some point. It's got $62,000 to go. Okay. I'll see you folks tomorrow. It might be a little bit earlier show. I have an engagement I got to get to early in the afternoon tomorrow. We'll see. I'll see you guys tomorrow at some point. Alrighty. Have a great day and peace.